connecting you to the future. New polar research and its implications for climate change. The first 5 days after conception. And an engineering masterpiece celebrates a special anniversary. BMW recently unveiled a new low-emissions concept car. Called the Vision Efficient Dynamics, it has been built to show that though the company is embracing environmentally responsible design, it has no intention of sacrificing its high-performance image. It's a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid driven by front and rear electric motors and a 3-cylinder turbo diesel, or any combination of all three. It can travel 50 kilometres on its lithium polymer battery without the need for non-electric power. Extremely compact LED lights reduce power consumption and are incorporated into the car's surfaces. The body shape has very low drag and louvers in front of the radiator close to further enhance airflow when cooling is not required. Running on diesel fuel alone, the concept car can travel 650 kilometres while releasing just 99 grams of CO2 per kilometre. Through its compact dimensions, the 3-cylinder diesel fits conveniently in front of the rear axle. Displacing 1.5 litres, the relatively small engine is combined with a turbocharger to reduce fuel consumption. New technology and lightweight construction is also evident in the interior layout. The instrument panel is padded only where necessary, with the driver's space focused on the instrument cluster. Natural materials and light colours on the seat upholstery and all interior linings feature prominently in the passenger compartment. The body contoured seats have a Kevlar shell, a backbone structure as well as seat padding. The instrumentation has features unfamiliar to drivers of conventional vehicles. Information about range and charge levels link in with the car's GPS system. Though BMW's Vision Efficient Dynamics concept will not go into production, much of the technology developed for the car will. And French car maker Renault has also unveiled new concept cars. The all-electric Twizy ZE is an ultra-compact aimed at city dwellers. The slightly larger Zoe ZE is also designed for urban driving, while the Fluence ZE has been made for family use. These concepts are a preview of Renault's all-electric range due for a launch in little more than 1 year. The lithium-ion batteries for the Twizy are located between the two seats. They give it a range of 100 kilometres and fully recharge from a domestic socket in 3.5 hours. Acceleration and performance of the Twizy are comparable to a small motorcycle, and it can reach a top speed of 75 kilometres per hour. Renault, in conjunction with energy company EDF, has been developing a new type of electrical infrastructure called power line communication. An exchange of billing information will happen digitally via the power transmission lines. This means fees for charging the car anywhere will show up on the one bill. For the larger cars in the all-electric range, a different type of infrastructure is being developed. GPS instrumentation in the vehicle will indicate exactly where the nearest high-voltage recharge point is. Charging at a 400-volt outlet will happen in as little as 30 minutes. The Zoe will also be able to take advantage of a battery exchange system called Quick Drop that completely eliminates recharging time. The Fluence is powered by a 70 kilowatt direct drive electric motor and has electric variable rate power steering. Solar cells on the roof, dashboard and the rear parcel shelf complement the power supplied by the battery. The headlights use high-performance electroluminescent diodes. The Quick Drop battery exchange station will resemble a car wash. The driver parks directly above a robotic access point. Though the system can handle a range of battery sizes, it does require common attachment points, so the robots can quickly remove the battery for charging. A second robot, with a fully recharged battery, raises it into place beneath the car. The whole process takes around 3 minutes, comparable to the time it takes to refuel a conventionally powered vehicle. The depleted unit is recharged in as little as an hour and waits to be fitted to the next car. Renault's range of electric vehicles is a real step towards zero emissions driving, but initial lack of infrastructure will limit their development. Over the past 2 decades, storms, particularly tropical storms, have been increasing in frequency and severity. Since accurate weather records have been kept, average global temperatures have followed an upward trend. Some parts of the world have seen record-breaking droughts, while others have seen floods of unprecedented magnitude. A world scientific consensus has emerged that links these extremes in weather to the man-made increase in atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide. To learn more about the world's changing weather patterns, scientists decided to examine the polar regions. The poles are an important part of the Earth's climate system, and they are showing dramatic reductions in ice. The 2-year research program, organised through the International Council for Science and the World Meteorological Organization, used icebreakers, satellites and submarines to study everything from the effect of solar flares on the polar atmosphere to the exotic marine life swirling beneath the Antarctic ice. Periodically, climate scientists conducted specialised weather studies over the skies of Greenland and Iceland. Their recent mission was to fly through a strong wind, called the Tipjet, to observe effects from Iceland and Greenland on the weather downstream.
If we get a good description of the weather around Iceland today, we might be able to improve the forecast for other parts of Europe in 3 days.
The cold polar waters are the drivers of the ocean's currents, which are in turn responsible for circulation of nutrients, important for marine life, and heat between the equatorial region and the poles.
Partly responsible for the Europe having quite a benign, mild climate in the winter times, our warm, wet winters in the UK, for example. If that thermohaline shut down, we would have, much colder, continental-style climate.
Researchers have discovered that North Atlantic storms are the major sources of heat and moisture for the northern polar regions. Understanding these mechanisms will improve forecasts of the path and intensity of storms. Researchers in Japan have developed a system that links a microscopic probe and digital photography with new software to capture time-lapse images of the first days of a developing embryo. The team at the Mayo Clinic in Kyoto are using the new technology to record the early development of human embryos used in IVF procedures. The technique is helping doctors understand the link between IVF and an increased prevalence of identical twins. The software, called Metamorph, creates a moving image from individual pictures taken every 2 minutes during the first 5 days of development. Previous attempts had resulted in the death of embryos, but the team has created a more benign environment for the observations. Around 40% of IVF pregnancies result in twins, so the new technique is important because a multiple pregnancy increases health risks to both mother and babies. Dr. Mayo Yasuyuki leads the research team.
So conceivably, as the result of the process of extended development of an embryo outside the human body, it is not unreasonable to suppose that the embryo is damaged or influenced in a harmful way, which may cause it to tear into two. This suggests that we may need to re-examine the whole procedure of blastocyst transfer from the beginning.
ことが考えられるので、ひょっとするとこれから先胚盤胞まで体の外で育てるという胚盤胞移植というその、移植の方法がもう一度根底から見直さないといけないということにつながっていく。
I think that the new findings revealed by the time-lapse images that we have produced will stimulate a fundamental re-examination of blastocyst transfer in the IVF procedure.
胚盤胞移植というもののもう一回見直すというそのきっかけになる研究になったんじゃないかなというふうに思います。
A blastocyst is the small cluster of cells that will develop into the placenta and the baby. It is this tiny structure that is transferred to the mother's uterus to continue development. The blastocoel is the first grouping of cells formed as a fertilized egg begins to divide. The recordings show it collapsing and re-expanding, and the team believes that this collapse probably does not occur during natural conception because of the human body's stable conditions.
Usually, you're not able to see what is happening during the first stages of pregnancy. Being able to watch the first stages of development made me very conscious that there was an amazing change taking place within my body, and that I needed to take care of my body for the sake of my child.
自分の体を大事にして赤ちゃんのために生活していくっていうことを考えることができてすごいやっぱり
I found the images spiritual and moving. I'm really glad that I was able to see the pictures.
見せてもらってよかったと思います。
Transfer of the embryo back to the mother's womb used to happen after 3 days, but with better incubation techniques, this has stretched to 5 days. However, this has resulted in an increase of multiple births, and doctors are reviewing the practice. Kaneda Mari gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The Eiffel Tower has dominated the Paris skyline for 120 years. This is ironic since the tower was supposed to be dismantled after just 20 years. Standing 324 metres high, it remained the tallest structure in the world for more than 40 years. During its life, 200 million people have visited the tower, making it the most popular monument in the world. Designed by Gustav Eiffel, it stood as the entrance arch to the 1889 World's Fair. The tower was assembled from 1,830 pieces of puddled iron using 2.5 million rivets. It took a team of 300 men 2 years to complete. Because it has an open structure, unlike a tall building, Eiffel took stringent safety precautions, employing movable stagings, guardrails and screens. During its construction, there was just one fatality. The Paris exhibition celebrated the centenary of the French Revolution. It was a successful event, being one of the world's few fairs to make a profit. Its central attraction was the Eiffel Tower. To travel to the top of the tower, visitors had to take a series of elevators. The original lifts had to overcome many technical obstacles, as no companies had experienced building lifts to climb so high, carrying such large loads. The lower level lifts were replaced in 1897 and remain the same to this day. Although safety systems were modernised in 1987, the original system of hydraulically operated counterweights still drives the elevators. The hydraulic technology was unusual for the time, in that it included 3 large counterweights of 200 tonnes each, sitting on top of hydraulic rams, which doubled up as accumulators for the water. The tower's angled legs have slanting tracks for the lifts that further complicated the engineering problems. As the lifts travel the inclined arc of the pillars, their angles change. Today, the Eiffel Tower has 20,000 individual lights which flash every 2 or 3 seconds for 5 minutes every hour. An additional 360 spotlights are rigged to floodlight the structure and maintaining these lights is a full-time job. Specially trained electricians equipped with mountain climbing gear scale the iron crossbeams to reach the array of lights. Working in pairs for safety, they are fastened by nylon climbers cords to the structure at all times, with their tools strapped to their belts to prevent accidents. It can take as much as 1 hour to reach and then replace a single globe. In addition to the electricians on the tower, painters are almost constantly repainting the ironwork to prevent rust. Every 7 years, between 60 and 70 tonnes of paint are applied to the structure. Initially, not everyone was happy with the Paris landmark. A group of writers called it an odious column built up of riveted iron plates and looked forward to its demolition. Fortunately, the tower gained public acceptance and has become the symbol of Paris. Across the Channel in Britain, London has a much newer landmark that also has broad public appeal. The London Eye has been around for 9 years and is currently undergoing upgrade work ahead of the 2012 Olympics. Each capsule is getting a makeover, adding multimedia features and making them even more environmentally friendly. A white dummy capsule sits amongst the wheel's other 31 glass capsules. Because each capsule weighs 10 tonnes, the dummy is required to keep the wheel in balance, as one by one the capsules are removed for the refurbishment. The London Eye is an extremely popular visitor attraction, and a 3-year upgrade program is designed to keep it up to date. When a capsule is removed, it is transported first by river and then by road to the workshop in Worcester. The pods will all have their heating and ventilation systems replaced, as they have never worked satisfactorily. These changes will also reduce the observation wheel's carbon footprint. One pod will be fitted with 4 ceiling-mounted screens and Wi-Fi for specialised uses. A future decision could give the go-ahead for all capsules to be fitted out with similar equipment. When it was built, the Eye was the largest observation wheel in the world. Since then, other larger wheels have been built, but the London Eye still remains the largest cantilevered observation wheel. It is supported on just one side, which means it gives largely unobstructed views. The support system for each capsule allows it to stay upright within 2 rotational collars that again do not interfere with the view. It takes the wheel around half an hour to complete a full rotation. The speed is so gentle that the wheel does not need to be stopped to exchange passengers, although it will stop to allow the elderly or disabled people to transfer. Views from the Eye are unobstructed by a forest of tall buildings. Strict regulations on building heights have been in place to preserve views of St Paul's Cathedral, the Tower of London and Westminster Place. Since 2000, the London Eye has seen 33 million paying visitors. The Eye was given planning permission for a lifespan of 5 years, which has already been extended. It was designed with a minimum life expectancy of 50 years. These chickens don't just produce eggs, they also generate electricity. The 3 million chickens at this farm in the hills north of Beijing are helping in the fight against global warming. The chickens, a highline brown breed from the US, produce 1.4 million eggs each day, but they also make a lot of waste. Every day they produce over 200 tonnes of chicken manure. Dealing with this much waste material is a problem that the more traditional small farms have not faced. The manure is sent directly to the next-door power plant via underground conveyor belts. The system is a result of a collaboration between the Dicheng-1 Agricultural Technology Complex and the International Finance Corporation. 3 million chickens will produce as much waste as a town of 30,000 people. The complex is a high-density chicken city, which uses a lot of electricity, yet the plant generates enough power to meet all the farm's needs and profit from the large surplus. At the plant, the waste is mixed with wastewater and pumped into large storage tanks. 4 enormous vats hold the waste matter as it digests for 27 days. Ultimately, methane gas is separated from the solid matter, which will be used as fertiliser for nearby farms. The methane is burned by specialised combustion engines to generate electricity. Currently, the plant produces around 14 million kilowatt hours of electricity per year, twice the amount that the chicken farm needs to operate. All its power is sold to the state electric grid, and the farm buys back what it needs. Power produced by the 2 huge Jenbacher methane generators is stable and consistent, but the power needs of the chicken industry vary greatly during the day. Drawing from the grid means power is available on demand, while the farm's generators can work efficiently, producing power constantly. Surplus methane is piped to 300 households near the plant to provide cooking fuel. By harnessing waste methane, the facility is able to sell carbon credits internationally under the Kyoto Protocol. The complex uses much of the leftover solid waste as fertiliser for its small vegetable growing operation. The investment in plant and equipment will take several years to recoup, but it has already solved a huge waste problem, with the manure becoming a profitable byproduct. And there is plenty more to come. The Netherlands is doing the same thing with pig manure. John Horevoorts at the Skerskuil Research Centre is using the waste from 2,700 pigs to produce electricity. Electricity produced at the farm is enough to power 1,500 households. The world is struggling to reduce pollution causing climate change, and attention is focused on the burning of fossil fuels in factories, power stations and vehicles. Yet United Nations scientists say farming and forestry account for more than 30% of the greenhouse gases accumulating in the atmosphere. One way to deal with the problem is to reduce the methane animals produce by changing their diet or through breeding. Another is to make use of it and burn it, which is exactly what Horevoorts is doing. Horevoorts and 4 other commercial farms in the area save 40,000 tonnes of methane emissions a year, which can be sold as credits for about €5 per tonne to offset carbon emissions. Though operating expenses for the biogas plant are considerable, the combination of electricity savings, power production and carbon credits makes it profitable. Last year, a British company bought the credits for people offsetting their carbon footprint for such things as travelling by plane or attending rock concerts. This year, a Dutch company is negotiating to buy the offsets, partly to promote a green image. Horevoorts, who is a biological researcher rather than a professional farmer, says that with financial incentives through electricity subsidies, it could become standard practice for ordinary farmers. About 50 commercial biogas plants are operating on farms across the Netherlands, and the practice is spreading across industrial livestock farms around the world. At €1 million for a big plant, it's an expensive answer to climate change. About 70% of the world's agriculture is on small land holdings in the developing world. This is just one of a number of carbon-reducing strategies that could only realistically be put in place by wealthy farmers or governments with highly concentrated farming industries.